Barcelona have played Bayern Munich 5 times in the last 5 years, and if you would add up the scores of every one of those games, it would be 19-2 in favor of Bayern Munich. Well, yeah. 8-2, 3-0, 3-0, 2-0, another 3-0. Not to mention the Champions League semi-finals back in 2013, where Bayern Munich defeated Barcelona with 7-0 on aggregates. Bayern Munich is obviously Barcelona's bogey team, their Angstgegner. And in this year's Champions League, Barcelona again crossed Bayern Munich's path. But this time, Barcelona might very well end up on the winning end. A lot of things have changed ever since Barcelona's last meeting with Bayern, both at Barcelona and at Bayern Munich. So make sure to stay tuned as we find out why Barcelona will beat Bayern Munich on Wednesday. First of all, Barcelona are simply better than they've been in years. The last time Barcelona were this good was maybe in 2019, but then they depended more on the individual class of Lionel Messi. Hansi Flick has really just changed Barcelona into a coherent machine. His midfield functions perfectly, with that double pivot of Marc Asado and Pedri, who are a really solid duo. They complement each other and they make up for each other's weaknesses. Marc Asado is defensively a little better, while Pedri has that spark of genius to find openings in attack. And mind you, Gavi and Frenkie de Jong haven't even fully returned from injury yet. So Hansi Flick might have already found a good midfield formula, but he will still be able to add both Gavi and Frenkie de Jong on top of that. In attacking midfield, there's Dani Olmo or even Fermin Lopez, who will both be back from injury soon, and then there's the attack with Rafinha, Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal. This attack has been astonishing up till now, but what exactly did Hansi Flick do to make this attack work? Well, there's more freedom and movement than under Xavi, and there's also a good balance between players who make runs like Rafinha and Lewandowski, and the playmakers like Pedri and Lamine Yamal. Barcelona's attack just makes sense. But the interesting thing is that Bayern Munich is actually a really similar team. They also rely on outscoring their opponents, so one thing's for sure, we will probably see a lot of goals in this game. Then it is all about who can outscore who. If you ask me, Barcelona are going to outscore Bayern Munich, and here's why. First of all, Bayern Munich just leave a lot of room in their defense, so their defense can be leaky. We've seen that in their Bundesliga game against Frankfurt, where they drew 3-3. If you think about Barcelona's games this season, they've even managed to score multiple goals against teams that play defensively. And against attacking teams like Villarreal, for example, they scored goal after goal after goal. And mind you, Villarreal were actually quite good in that game against Barcelona, and they've probably been one of the best teams in La Liga up till now. But Barcelona won that game 5-1 away from home. So that shows you what happens if you play offensively against Hansi Flick's Barcelona. Now, of course, Bayern Munich are better than Villarreal on paper, but their offensive playing style is very risky against this current Barcelona side. But now you might be thinking the same goes for Barcelona. They also leave a lot of room in defense while attacking, so Bayern Munich could also make use of that. And that's definitely true. Barcelona will probably concede one or even more goals against Bayern Munich. However, there is a big defensive weapon that Barcelona have this season: the offside trap. Barcelona might have conceded more disallowed goals than actual goals up till now. The offside trap works great, and in that one game against Osasuna where they did concede 4 goals, Hansi Flick just made a lot of rotations and we won't see the same players against Bayern Munich. And in Barcelona's loss against Monaco, everything just changed after Eric Garcia's red card. When this Barcelona team are at full strength, they're actually quite great defensively. They just have a very risky way of defending, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. So Barcelona might concede 1 or 2 goals against Bayern Munich, but it is very unlikely that they will concede 4 or 5. So this is really just a game between two very offensive teams with a risky playing style. Barcelona might concede a couple of goals, but with their attack at the moment against this Bayern Munich team, they could probably outscore Bayern Munich to win the game. And it is also important to note that Barcelona aren't really weakened by injuries right now. Sure, there are players who are out injured like Christensen and Araujo, but Barcelona's defense has been great with Koundé, Inigo Martinez, Pau Cubarsí and Balde. Their midfield functions perfectly with Marc Asado and Pedri. Let's just hope that either Dani Olmo or Fermin Lopez can start against Bayern Munich in attacking midfield, and in attack everyone is available for Barcelona. So Bayern Munich are more or less coming up against Barcelona's strongest possible team. And why is that important? Well, last time Barcelona faced Bayern Munich, which was in the 22-23 season, Barcelona were not at their strongest. Marcos Alonso had to play in the starting lineup. It's a tiny detail, but it might be one of the reasons why Barcelona didn't beat Bayern Munich back then. Now there are just no excuses. Hansi Flick has everything he needs in order to beat Bayern Munich. But you're probably not totally convinced yet that Barcelona will win. So what does Barcelona really have that Bayern Munich don't? Well, there are multiple things, one of which is the mentality. Barcelona are not a pushover team anymore. 2 years ago, under Xavi, they were already better than they were in the previous years, but in the big games, they lacked the edge to really give it their all, it seems. Not only in those games against Bayern Munich, also against Inter, and even in those games against Manchester United in the Europa League. Barcelona's young core of players was not that experienced on that level, and that was one of Barcelona's biggest weaknesses back then. Apart from maybe Gavi and Araujo, most players weren't aggressive enough. Think about Frenkie de Jong for example, but even Pedri, Dembélé and Ter Stegen as well. Now last season against PSG we did see a better Barcelona mentality wise. Especially in the away game, Barcelona were really sharp. That was the most motivated and passionate that we had seen Barcelona in years. So before you're going to criticize Xavi in the comments, you should probably realize that under him, Barcelona already grew a lot when it comes to mentality. Nevertheless, it is under Hansi Flick that Barcelona have really become a passionate team. This season, a lot of players play as if their life is on the line. Think about Rafinha, Koundé or Marcus Rashford. So that might give Barcelona an edge over Bayern Munich. Certainly, if you realize that a lot of these players will want to take revenge for those past defeats. But there is another advantage that Barcelona have over Bayern Munich, and it is Hansi Flick. Hansi Flick led Bayern Munich to the top 5 seasons ago. He knows a lot of these players. He basically knows Bayern Munich better than Vincent Kompany. The fact that he knows Müller, Gnabry and Kimmich will probably help Barcelona neutralize those players. But of course that rule doesn't always apply. I mean, it's not as if Guardiola has ever managed to stop Lionel Messi, but the fact that Hansi Flick is familiar with most of Bayern Munich's squad does give Barcelona an advantage. And there's even more to it, because Barcelona might actually have experience on their side this time. At least when you're talking about Hansi Flick. He's more experienced in the Champions League than Vincent Kompany. And the interesting thing is that in the past couple of years, one of Barcelona's weak points in these big games was that Xavi didn't really have too much experience on this level. In general even, it is often in those big European nights that unexperienced managers get it difficult. Think about Xabi Alonso. He is an astonishing manager, but in the Europa League final last year, Leverkusen got outclassed by Atalanta, simply because Gasperini is an experienced manager who knows how to tactically prepare his team for those big games, even when they are the underdog. And if you look at Barcelona's recent history, then Ernesto Valverde, Luis Enrique and Pep Guardiola were actually all quite inexperienced in Europe when they first started out as Barcelona managers. That might be one of the reasons why Barcelona under Guardiola got eliminated in 2010 and 2012. The same goes for Barcelona under Luis Enrique in 2016 and 2017, and the same goes for Barcelona under Ernesto Valverde in 2018 and 2019 really. This might be one of the first times where Barcelona are playing in Europe under a manager who's actually already been here before he came to Barcelona. It is an advantage that Barcelona have never really had. Certainly if you realize that for Vincent Kompany, this is actually his first big European game. And why does experience even matter? Well, for a manager, it'll help you make the right decisions at the right moments, because these big games are different. So the more big European games you've had as a manager, the better you can judge situations in the right way. The same goes for players really. And compared to the last time when Barcelona faced Bayern Munich, Barcelona have actually become more experienced, while Bayern Munich now have some inexperienced players like Olise and Pavlovic. So in terms of experience, Barcelona are actually in the advantage right now, contrary to 2 years ago. So when you add up all those things, Barcelona are probably the slight favorites for this game. Both teams are in great form and play very offensively, and they've both won and lost one game in the Champions League up till now. Footballing wise, these two are just very similar, and one team doesn't really have a clear-cut advantage over the other. But Barcelona's attack might be a little better, and they're probably a little more solid defensively as well. And if you're talking about motivation and experience, Barcelona are in the advantage. Barca have suffered a lot in Europe over the last 5 years, and these players will want to bounce back. This is their chance to do so. Winning against Bayern Munich would give Barcelona a huge boost in confidence, and it's basically what a lot of these players have been waiting for years, literally. It really does feel as if it's now finally time for Barcelona to put an end to this negative streak in Europe. And if I had to predict how the game will go, I'd probably say Barcelona win 3-2. It's going to be an open game with chances on both sides, but Barcelona are going to be lethal in attack, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they score 4 or 5. I don't think Bayern Munich's defense is safe against the likes of Lamine Yamal and Rafinha. Bayern Munich will probably also create a lot of chances and maybe score a couple of goals as well, but Barcelona's offside trap might work very well against them. So in the end, I think Barcelona are going to end up on top. But hey, I might be wrong, and that's of course always the danger if you make these type of videos. I mean, last year I predicted that Barcelona would win the first Clásico of the season, and I also predicted that they would win against Girona in that game at home in December. They lost both games. So let's just hope that I've not just jinxed it for Barcelona. Anyway, that was it for today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share your own opinion in the comments down below. Força Barça, of course, and have a good day.